There's a lot that's come out about Godzilla vs. Kong in the last few days. And while I don't like doing these videos because, quite frankly, it makes me feel like I'm, grabbing for views, I couldn't pass this one up. I just couldn't, because we're living in unprecedented times. Now, as a person who likes history, I find living right now to be fascinating, because I know that right now, what's going on right now will be studied in history books in the decades to come. And I find it kind of exciting that I'm living in this time period. But I won't deny that this year has sucked. To start off, my stance remains the same as it always has been for the last year. My hopes for this movie being anything great is not high. It's Hollywood we're talking about here. This is Hollywood. Don't expect anything groundbreaking or even thought-provoking. What I'm expecting is popcorn fun. And it's all I want. Sure, I want debate and thought-provoking ideas, deep characters and such, but we're not going to get that. We're not. There will be tropes in exchange for epic monster fights and visually like nothing we've ever seen before in this genre. And now that I've wrapped my head around that concept, and I've come to admit that that's what's going to happen, I can say now that I'm actually looking forward to the movie. I liked Godzilla 2014. I thought King of the Monsters 2019 was okay. Even after rewatching Kong Skull Island, I can actually say I liked it now. So I don't really see this movie being anything different. It won't be something great, but it'll be something fun. And I'm calling it now, like I have before, that neither Kong nor Godzilla will win in the end in this film. It'll be a team-up. And I think this is going to be like Batman v Superman in terms of its structure. Kong and Godzilla will fight, only for a bigger foe to come in, and then they have to team together to beat said bigger foe. Just who this bigger foe is going to be, there's no point speculating at this point. I just hope it's pretty freaking cool. Now, what does all that mean? All that stuff that I just rambled on about. It means the writers of this movie are looking to go down the middle of the road and take as little risks as possible. And why not? Why not? You're investing hundreds upon hundreds of millions of bucks into one project so that you want to milk my pockets, the moviegoers, as much as possible. The more people you please, the more people will sit in those seats, which means more money. Now, that's, of course, not always the case, like everything in this industry. Nothing is set in stone, nothing is black and white, but lately it seems like executives for these huge blockbuster movies, they seem to think that this is set in stone, that this middle-of-the-road approach is doctrine. And I can't really deny that I probably might see the same thing and come to the same conclusions. How can't they? And the greatest example of this is Marvel, the movie powerhouse of the world at the moment. They've been doing this for well over a decade, and they're still going strong. Before I go down a tirade that I don't really want to go on, let's talk about these pictures. They are nothing crazy. Absolutely nothing crazy. It's more of what's around these images that I find fascinating, and we'll get to that. But first off, let's talk about the logo. I'm not going to lie, it'll be difficult for me not to call this Kong versus Godzilla, not because I think that's how it should be, to make that clear, but just because I'm so used to saying it that way because of the original 1962 movie. But the logo looks fine. I saw a lot of whining from people in all these Facebook groups that I'm a part of for Godzilla and so on and so forth, just talking about how generic it looks, and I don't really think so. It does its job. It does look kind of cool. But specifically, it's pretty close to what has been done in the MonsterVerse before. So to be honest, it's pretty much what I expected it to be. Not much really to say about there. So next, let's actually look at Godzilla himself. And he looks a bit different, I think. Maybe not, I'm not sure. It might just be the angle and the low res of the shots that we got. But something that I noticed is he seems to be almost like spikier, like his scales have gotten sharper. And, well, to be honest, if he is, so what? They changed the design a bit. I mean, there's nothing else you can really say about that. Now, I've always liked this design since 2014, and I still do. They've kept that same basic design. They really took the idea of making Godzilla a brawler and ran with it, and I've always liked that concept. I've always liked the fact that they actually went and did stuff with that idea. Now, speaking of him being a brawler, that's probably the thing I'm actually looking forward to the most in Godzilla vs. Kong, is how the fights will play out. Now, say what you will about King Kong vs. Godzilla 1962, but that movie really did play up that Godzilla was like a walking tank, lumbering to be feared from a distance and extremely bulky. And Kong was fast, quick, and able to basically move in close and get underneath your skin. So what's going to happen here in Godzilla vs. Kong 2021? You've got two brawlers now. And to be honest, I really hope they play into this. I'm not sure if they will, but here's hoping that they do. And now on to Kong. And again, I'm not really a fan of bearded Kong, or old man Kong, as I like to call him. But it's fine. I'm still a big fan of that reddish-brown fur on him over the black fur on the other Kong designs. Now, I've always thought of this is possibly an homage to not just the Japanese Kong from Toho, but also the original Kong from 1933, whose puppet was said to have a reddish-brown fur, not black. Everyone thinks it's black, but it's quite clear that it was actually a reddish-brown. And I've also got to admit, I like how they just said fuck it, and made him an upright ape. I like how they didn't really care about physiology or anything like that. They just said fuck it. And the reason why I like that is probably because I would have done the same damn thing. But the most interesting thing about his photo is that collar. I mean, what the fuck is it? Was that keeping him chained to while they were bringing him over to Skull Island? Is it a tracker? Is it a shock collar? A mind control device similar to what we saw in King Kong Escapes? I think it's going to be something kind of like a shock collar, something that keeps Kong in line, which would be cool, since Kong is kind of like the definition of a libertarian who didn't give two craps about anything that happened outside of his own home, which is, in this case, Skull Island. The other possibility is that it's just remains of a chain that kept Kong pinned for whoever, brought him over here to fight Godzilla, or maybe fight that third monster that I mentioned before. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But looking at these two images, I'm really, really loving how the creators have stuck to the color designs set after 2014. It really began with Kong Skull Island, but I'll say 2014. Kong's colors are warm and earthly. Godzilla's are cold and, well, I wouldn't say unearthly, but I certainly wouldn't say that they were natural. They're very vibrant blues. And if they carry that color coding over into the entire movie, I'll be a happy boy. I mean, what can I say? I'm kind of a sucker for visual touches like that. Things like that I've always appreciated. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into what is arguably the less interesting stuff for most people, but the stuff that gets my producer and business owner mind just reeling and excited even. So it's clear that Legendary had high hopes for Godzilla because of the massive success of 2014 and even Kong Skull Island. People went to see those movies. But something happened. Something happened between those and when King of the Monsters was released, because King of the Monsters failed. And I don't care what people say. Don't listen to those fanboys who blindly say it did turn a profit. It didn't on its theatrical run. After DVD sales, I'm not sure, but on its theatrical run, it did not turn a profit. People never, ever take into account the marketing costs that often usually doubles the actual production costs. So why did King of the Monsters fail? I don't know. All I know is that just about every movie released that month in 2019 underperformed, including the Elton John biopic. Now, some people, including me to a certain extent, thinks it's because of, the trailers and pictures were dropped a full year before the movie came out. So there was no sense of urgency to go see the movie like there was with Godzilla 2014. I mean, I remember that epic first trailer for 2014 when it dropped. My mouth was watering. It was only a few months before the movie was actually released. I'd bet that had something to do with why Legendary Pictures was being so quiet with Godzilla vs. Kong, perhaps to reignite that sense of urgency like back in 2014. But then a certain pandemic happened. So while the first delay of release may have been genuine, I don't think it was, but may have been genuine to fix problems and address critiques given by King of the Monsters, no one predicted what happened this year. Absolutely no one. The movie industry is hurting, ladies and gentlemen. It is reeling. Movie theaters are close to bankruptcy, and without a doubt, the state of the industry has been changed forever. Streaming is the popular thing now. And why not? I've even taken up streaming. and one of the reasons why streaming has become the sort of bane of the existence for movie theaters is because of what I have done. What I have done, a lot of people have also done. I have a full surround sound system and a huge TV now in my room. I can now recreate a movie-going experience in the comfort of my own home. I've been saying it since 2019 after seeing the poor box office results of King of the Monsters that Godzilla vs. Kong should be released to streaming instead of waiting for the right moment to be released theatrically. I have said that way back in 2019, and of course this pandemic happened, only reaffirming my stance. And the pandemic has delayed so many movies that I can't help but wonder, how can Godzilla compete? Especially with Marvel just waiting to pounce again for the theater market to open up. How can Godzilla compete? It can't. This is an absolutely fascinating time to be alive, everyone. My mouth is just drooling, watching how the movie industry is changing and even failing to adapt to the new reality that we live in. We are in the process of seeing a new direction for how we consume movies, either in theaters or the ever-growing want to just stream it from home. And the pandemic has thrown that ball way into the favor of streaming platforms. How are these companies going to adapt? We don't know. And this new Warner Bros. HBO deal is truly interesting to look at, because it blatantly says that these big-time blockbusters, Godzilla vs. Kong is on that list, are going to be released through streaming services, HBO Max, and theaters, theatrically, in 2021. So what's going to happen? And again, I mention this because Godzilla vs. Kong falls into this category. Will people clamor to the theaters because they have been cooped up for literally a full year? Will they just clamor to the theaters? Or will they just stay home? Or will people who love the theater-going experience wait to see their movies in theaters and not get the streaming service? Or will the streamers just say, screw it, and go to the theaters just to get out of the house? I don't know. I really am dying to see how this plays out, and I'm actually looking forward to 2021 because of all of this. Now, I know what I'm going to do. Again, this isn't necessarily my prediction, but I know what I'm going to do. And that's when Godzilla vs. Kong comes out, I'm going to pay for it, have a few friends over, turn out the lights in my room, crack open a beer, and watch the damn movie. I'm not going to the theaters. And unlike what many people would like us to believe, this virus is here to stay. It's dangerous, Is it stopping me from doing really what I want to do and accomplishing what I want to accomplish? No, it's not. Has it made it harder? Hell yes, it has, but it hasn't stopped me. But something that we need to really comprehend and wrap our brains around is that this virus is a reality. And it's much safer, and I'd argue even more fun for me, to just be alone with two friends in my own home than in a theater full of strangers. And that's why I'm going to do what I'm going to do. That's why I'm going to watch it. I'm going to stream it over watching it in a theater. Now, there is just so much to talk about with this. Would Godzilla vs. Kong bomb if it was just released in theaters? Has Legendary Pictures lost faith in the project since they've been lukewarm at best about it since King of the Monsters' failure? Will Legendary Pictures make anything else with Godzilla or even Kong once this movie is out in the ether of the world? I don't know. To be honest, I doubt Legendary Pictures will even make more Godzilla movies because I can just tell how horribly King of the Monsters left a bad taste in Warner Brothers' mouth. I can tell. Which is unfortunate. That really is unfortunate. Because I want to see Godzilla on the screen like any Godzilla fan. Of course I want to see him on the big screen. I want to see more Godzilla. But we are getting more Godzilla. So let's say that Warner Brothers and Legendary Pictures do give up in making any more of these movies. Look what's coming. We've got a new Godzilla anime. You know, Toho is yearning to make more Godzilla movies and Kaiju movies. The only reason why they're not is because of their contracts with Warner Brothers. Regardless of what happens, let's say Godzilla vs. Kong is a big success and they decide to make more. That's great. Let's say it doesn't work out. Okay, we're still going to be getting more Godzilla because it's going to start going back to Toho. You see what I'm saying here? Regardless of what happens, it's a hell of a time to be a Kaiju fan. And I'm excited. I'm truly excited. I want to know what's coming next. Even if I don't necessarily like it, I want to know what's coming next, and I'm excited to see what's coming our way. And I think you should be too. I think you guys should be glad that we're getting all of this stuff out there. I know I am. I'm certainly happy about it. So, go on Facebook to like AN Productions for all up-to-date information of what we're doing. You can even check out our website, www.adamnproductions.com. And in the end, this is Adam Noyce of AN Productions saying sayonara.